You are live, it says. Hey, man, I'm still trying to figure this out. So I set this one up kind of off the cuff. I didn't really have time to set anything up, but I wanted to see how it worked. Kind of do an inaugural show to kind of give folks an idea of what I plan on doing with this new format using StreamYard. Is doing more of well, still be off the cuff, but maybe just a little bit more of a format, I guess, than my typical videos. We're going to call these at the pub. It could be beer, could be whiskey, could be wine. Hell, it could be anything. Could be coffee. Who knows? Yeah. So, at some point, I hope in future shows have guests and cover specific topics or certain topics. You know, we may run through everything. I plan on doing a 1 hour show. For the first one, though, for the inaugural, I've got one from Beard Engine Brewing out of Alba, Missouri. So I picked this particular bottle up back in May. I did visit the brewery again yesterday, so I picked up another bottle. So I've got one in the hopper. So that's why I decided to pop this one today. It is an Imperial Stout. My lighting here is really terrible. 13%, aged in Heaven Hill rye whiskey barrels. So let me show you that bottle there. Pours very nicely. I've got about 5 ounces or so, maybe 6 here in my snifter. I do like a snifter for barrel aged beers. If you prefer to use a tulip, that's fine too. But I personally like to do shorter pours, especially when I've got a bomber here. Lets me do about 4 pours. So although I didn't have this in the fridge, it had been in a cabinet in the garage, so it had been cold. So I did leave it sit out for about 20 minutes before I popped it. I also, after I popped it, I poured it, took a picture, and it's been sitting out for about 5 minutes, just kind of relaxing, breathing. So I did kind of want to get this up to closer to about 55, 60. That's where it's going to be optimal. And although I just have myself listed as the beer whisperer here, I did pour, because they said rye whiskey barrels, I decided to pour just about 1.5 ounces of my double barrel rye from Tiakida, a local distillery for me. So although Beard Engine isn't necessarily local, it's local adjacent. It's local-ish, right? They're only about an hour and a half away, and I don't know that they're local to anybody. So I'm gonna call them a local brewery for me. I had a great time out there last night. Nate and everybody was just so friendly. I asked about these when I first got there, and they initially said they were out. Then Nate got there, and he says, "I've got some squirreled away in the office." I don't think he used the word squirreled, but I'm paraphrasing. He's got had a couple in the office, so I bought another bottle of the old ale that I drank a couple of days ago, and another bottle of Russian stout that I'll probably just keep till next year. Now I'll sit on those, but I did want to try this Russian Imperial, so let's try it together, shall we? I get a lot of deep dark chocolate on the nose, a little bit of molasses maybe as well. Certainly going to find some vanilla from that rye whiskey barrel. I keep wanting to say bourbon, but it was his rye barrel. I noticed a lot of places will use Heaven Hill barrels. They may be more plentiful. That could be why. It's the first time I've used. Well, so I used the StreamYard briefly to do a live video, but it's the first time I've done a scheduled video, so I don't know how this is turning out or not. We're gonna find out together. Wow, that is absolutely gorgeous. My only complaint about this beer, you're gonna like this one. My only complaint about this beer is this freaking wax, man. It took me a while to get get that off there. And then as I was trying to open the bottle just now to pour, a piece of wax fell in the bottle. So now I've got to fish that out. I hate wax, man. I know there's probably an easy way to do it. I'm just not sure what it is. Yeah, it took me about 10 minutes to get the damn bottle open, man. I've got bad hands, man. I got a lot of arthritis, carpal tunnel, trigger finger. Man, I got really bad hands. It's tough for me. It's tough, man. Got the fire on the television, as you can see. One of these days, I'll just do a logo video, so I'll just have that running in the background. Right? I'll figure something out. It might take me a little bit. Uh, my wife was laughing at me with the various props I use to set things up. Just various items around the house. Old boxes, canned goods. I mean, I run a very professional show. I'm a expert at improvisation. I work with what I've got. These are what the props I have. This is what I use. uh, Maybe it's that Irish Catholic upbringing. You learn how to work with what you got. Don't have the right tool? Well, you find one that'll work. You turn something else into the right tool. Again, oh wow, that is gorgeous. A lot of deep, dark chocolate. Again, I feel like I'm getting some molasses, some toffee notes in there. You may find some dark fruit that certainly wouldn't be unusual. You might find date and or fig, raisin. You might even find very dark plum as well. Really depends on you and your taster. I mean, I tell people this over and over again. I mean, you've got certain beer snobs will tell you, well, you'll only get this. Or, these are the only notes you should get. The truth is, if you don't eat dates or figs, you're never going to taste date or fig. That might be the note they want you to get to. But if you don't eat those things, your mind is going to interpret that as something else. It could be raisin, it could be plum, it could be whatever you're familiar with. Some will say black currant, but if you don't eat black currants, how are you going to taste that as black currant? Well, you're not. Your mind will interpret that as something else. That's why I hate beer snobs that want to tell folks they're wrong. Well, they're not wrong. What they get is what they get. How can they be wrong? If that's what they're tasting, that's what they're tasting. Cherry is possible. You might get some very dark cherry in there as well. Almost like an Amarena cherry. God, this beer is outstanding, man. It is gorgeous. They are a great brewery. I tend to want to send folks out there. Every once in a while, I got folks passing through Springfield, and they'll say, "Tom, what breweries should I hit?" So I mentioned a few right here in Springfield, but I also find out where they're going. I said, if you're traveling down 44, I suggest you get off the beaten path there and stop by Beard Engine because you're not going to be disappointed. They're doing some amazing beer, and not only that. I mean, it's one of those places that it's a home run. It's a home run all around for me, right? Or the beer is great, but the staff is amazing. The owners are wonderful folks. I mean, everything about Beard Engine just works. They are rather amazing folks out there. I mean, they're just so welcoming and friendly. And you're going to have some of the best beer on the planet there in this small brewery way out in the middle of no place. It's not close to anything. Well, actually, it's not that far out of Joplin. I guess it's not really, but it kind of feels like though, right? It's not that. It's only about, I don't know, about what, 15, 20 minutes out of Pittsburg, Kansas, too. I mean, it's not that far. And it's only about an hour and a half from Springfield. It just seems farther, man, because there's really not anything else out there where they're at. Uh, so let me give you the rundown. The reason I want to do this inaugural video uh, was I kind of wanted to give you the rundown of what you might find in future episodes. I think what I'm angling for is to start doing these videos on Thursday night, do a 1 hour show on Thursday night. And again, they'll be called At the Pub. So we'll be just focused on whatever beer, whiskey, or wine I might be drinking. Uh, like I said, it possibly coffee. It could be anything. But yeah, I want to have certain guests on that, not necessarily specifically talk about one topic, but might focus on one area or another. If you're meeting a friend at the pub, you might talk about the beer or the whiskey, but you might also be talking sports. You might talk politics. You might talk religion. You might just be talking about your families. And that's kind of where I want these videos to go is at the pub, just like we were meeting together at the pub. And I want to encourage comments as well. So if you can't, if you can't be if you're not able to be a guest, at least feel free to comment and kind of join in. You can comment on what you're drinking. You can comment on the topics that we are talking about. I want it to be a very open forum. That's how things used to be when you met somebody at the pub. You could talk about anything. The days before everybody was offended by everything. And the truth is, both sides want to blame the other one. The right likes to say it's the left that gets offended. Left says it's the right that gets offended. Personally, I find both get offended equally, right? um, One wants to say, no, it's just these folks. They're the ones that get offended, and then they get offended by something simple. I seem to piss off people on either side of the aisle, so I think it's both. But I want to be able to talk about certain things, but I want it to come up organically. I don't necessarily want. I don't want things to sound rehearsed. I don't want anything scripted. It's possible we could talk beforehand about what topics we may bring up, again, depending on the guest. Well, Happy New Year's to you, everybody commenting there. Uh, yeah, like my shorter videos I do on the weekends. I want them to be unrehearsed and off the cuff, but with these, maybe just a little more structured, if you will. I mean, if I've got a guest who is well versed in certain things, we may talk about, okay, this is what we're going to bring up, and we'll see where the conversation goes. Like I said, it could be sports, it could be religion, it could be just the alcohol, it could be everything in one particular episode. Certain times of the year I may the holidays kind of rough for us because we're always thinking about our son we lost to cancer. So at some point, I'd like to have a guest or two to talk about the stages of grief, for instance. So I want to be able to encompass a lot of things, and how everybody deals with grief differently. There isn't a right or a wrong way, in my opinion. There certainly isn't a cookie cutter one size fits all, and that's something I'd like to go into that in greater detail with somebody else who has been going through something as well. And I do have a handful of friends out there who would be right for that particular type of episode. I just think it's gorgeous. It says 13%, but by golly, man, they hide it well. I mean, you can definitely feel it's a bourbon barrel, right? But it's not overpowering. It doesn't take over. See, here's my thing about rye barrels. Here's my thing about whiskey barrels. If you're telling me it's in a whiskey barrel, I want to be able to taste that barrel. But here's the however, you don't want it to overpower the style, right? So there is a bit of a line to walk there, right? You want to be able to taste that original Russian Imperial Stout. But if you're labeling a beer as a bourbon barrel or rye, any whiskey barrel, for instance, you want to taste those whiskey barrel notes, or I do anyway. And I feel like this one reaches that balance perfectly. So I picked up I told you drop some wax in there because I'm not very coordinated. Like I said, my hands are just incredibly bad at this stage of the game. Drip it there. Not pour that very well, anyway. My wife's over here chuckling, thinking, "Great, something else I've got to clean up." Anyway, I digress. Plancha, and happy New Year's Eve to you all. I imagine, I didn't expect anybody to join me because, like I said, I just scheduled this video today, so I didn't give anybody any warning when I was doing it. But I wanted to, I just added the platform today as well. So, but again, because I did add it today, I wanted to try it to kind of get a feel for it, and gradually work out the bugs as I go along, per se. So this is the official inaugural. That I think will start next Thursday. Well, the next actually, as I say that, I forget we'll have to work this next Thursday because of where the week falls. But so I may do the first one on Friday, or the second one, if you will. First official, I don't know. We'll call this the pilot episode, and then that would be the first one. Anyway, I digress. And then move it to Thursdays because I think Thursdays might be an easier day for some folks to be able to watch than Friday. I'll do it about 6 o'clock Central Time, unless my schedule happens to change. Gosh, this is gorgeous. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You expect a beer at 13% to feel just a tad boozy, but man, not at all. He hides it extremely well. But I gotta tell you, Nate is a brewer extraordinaire, man. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this guy is wow. He is world class. And I don't think he's entered anything in the big festival yet, the GABF, but he really should, because his stuff just shines, man. This beer is just incredible. He does a lot of out of the box stuff. He's known for that. Uh, but to me, I mean, everything I've had over there so far has been an absolute home run, and that doesn't happen often. There's no clinkers. There's not even a double in there. I mean, everything he does is whatever that style is meant to be. He knocks it out of the park. I mean, they are just amazing over there. But like I said, it's one of those perfect storms, right? I mean, he's an incredible brewer, but his staff is amazing. The bar manager is absolutely incredible. His wife is in there, and she's amazing. I mean, just everything. And I love the atmosphere too. It's a little different for me, you kind of got that steampunk kind of feel, but it's just fun, man. It just feels fun. It doesn't feel pretentious like a lot of craft breweries tend to do. It doesn't feel generic either. I feel like a lot of the newer craft breweries tend to be a little generic. They could be anybody. This beer is outstanding, man. Yeah, so Wednesday I decided it was the only beer that I had on Wednesday. I had their old ale, which I believe was 10% and change. And that thing was just amazing. It was aged in bourbon barrels. I think that's why I was assuming this was a bourbon barrel until I read that label a little clearer. So I was glad I was able to get one of each. That way I know I'm drinking this one now, and I've still got an old ale and a Russian Imperial Stout that I'll sit on till next year about this time. Hopefully I'll get out there. I was out there last May and I wasn't able to get out there the second time till now. So I'm hoping to, not have to wait that long between visits. There's another brewery or there's a brewery in Pittsburg, Kansas called Jolly Fox. I visited them too, and I know those two brewers know each other and talk a lot. Both both breweries are absolutely outstanding. So I'd like to kind of get out there maybe sometime in March and hit them all again, or hit both of them again. But also, though, there's a winery there that we hit, Keltoy. So we'd like to visit that one as well. And we picked up several bottles of wine yesterday as well. Yeah. It was kind of neat though. Kilto is very relaxed, and we happened to be the only customers there at that time anyway. Um, we kind of brought ourselves up. They allow you to bring food in. They do a lot of events out there, but they allow you to bring food in. So, I'd fixed up. I cut up some meats and cheeses. My wife brought some grapes as well. So we had, we brought in a little snack plate. We did a tasting, and then we bought a few bottles of wine and opened up one of them and drank about half. We each had a glass, so we got about half a bottle we brought home with us. But we kind of, it was just relaxing, man. We relaxed. We did the tasting. We had a little wine, got a little food in us, and then we went over to Beard Engine. My wife rested a little bit, and I went in and had just a great time at Beard Engine. They're amazing, man. I can't say enough good things about that particular brewery. So we do. We typically, my wife and I have done this thing, and we did it when the kids were little. Is that we would not typically go out anywhere. So when you have small kids, it's usually just not a smart idea to go out. And we didn't really want to leave them, right? I just didn't want to, leave them with babysitters. They shouldn't be alone on, with strangers on New Year's. So and it's hard to get a babysitter anyway on New Year's Eve. But anyway, so typically what we would do is we would just do, especially with Seamus, really, because he loved to cook. We would plan and we would spend months, yeah, sometimes a few months planning the menu of various hors d'oeuvres that would go through the day, and then maybe watch some movies or do whatever, but might play some games or just be goofy. So we're kind of doing a version of that, just on a much smaller scale. So it's just the wife and I. We had a few things to do. Again, we got the meat and cheese. We could have. Oh, excuse me. A little bit earlier, I we picked up some things at an Amish store the other day. Had some cheese curds, and they had these. I think it's a Brew City mac and cheese bites. They were with uh, pepper jack cheese. Yeah, I was going blank there for a second with pepper jack cheese. So I had just a little bite. So we had a little appetizer there, and then we've also got some seafood. I know I'm going to cook later. My wife loves coconut shrimp, so we're going to cook some of them up later. So we got various things we can go to, but again, I don't necessarily plan the delivery. Right? There was a time we kind of okay, at 3 o'clock we do this, at 4 o'clock they're going to come out when we want to cook. When we feel like eating something, that's when it's going to happen, man. I am absolutely blown away that this is 13% because you do not feel that at all. I mean, you do feel out bourbon barrel, but you don't feel any booziness whatsoever. This thing is amazing. Bourbon. I keep wanting to say bourbon. You do feel those rye barrel notes. Keep wanting to say bourbon. Rye barrel, Tom. Yeah, because I was gonna pour some bourbon first. But that's rye barrel, something. Because I had in my mind that it was a bourbon barrel. So let me show you this bottle here. Double barrel rye whiskey, finished in sherry cask. This is a beautifully done rye from Tiyaki-Da, the same folks that own Springfield Brewing Company, sister company, I guess you might say. I didn't pour a lot. I did about an ounce and a half pour it. I've got to break that up a little bit. But I pour pair the right products, the right whiskey with the right beer. That's very important, man. It's very important, Tom. I got the fire on the TV. You see, at some point I like to just have be able to just show a logo behind me on my television screen. But again, I'm a little technologically challenged. It's going to take me a minute to figure all this stuff out. It's gonna take a little bit. Yeah, I'm having trouble. I still haven't figured out how to get the music on there. I thought I had it there just before I started the video, but then I didn't. So no music. But I'll get there. I'll get there. I'm trying to figure out. So they have some stock music they give you, but I've got a few friends in bands, some locally, local adjacent, let's just say, that have allowed me to play their music during my videos. So I like there's a particular a couple friends that I want to get with to see if they would mind if I use them kind of as intro into the show as soon as I can figure out how to do that. Could try to figure because I thought I was downloading a song earlier, but it obviously wasn't because I couldn't figure out how to get it there. So once I figure some things out, I might have to have some friends just a little bit smarter than I to help me to walk me through this because I was reading the tutorials and everything, but I still wasn't quite getting there. So it's that proverbial old dog and new tricks kind of thing. I mean, at this point, I've learned everything I'm going to learn. Every time I learn something new at this point, something else has to be forgotten. There's only so much room left in there. You got if something else comes in, something's got to go out. And the problem with that is I can't pick and choose what I lose. Something gets lost, and it might be something that I need later. Oh, this whiskey is absolutely insanely good. You do feel those nice sherry notes that kind of balance out the spiciness of the rye. It's really different. It adds a little bit of some fruit notes to that spicy rye. Let me see if I can try to pour this time without spilling so much. That would be awesome. Which would be okay. I guess I should just pour it, not worry about the wax, but I don't want the wax in the glass. So I thought I'd get 4 pours, but I must have been pouring a little heavy. So I won't get quite all of it in here, but we'll get real close. Just a little bit in that bottle where the wax is. Anyway, I digress. But I want to kind of give you the rundown of what I'm trying to do or what I think I want to do with the format. So I want to have a little bit of a format, but I do want to keep it loose. That's kind of what I'm known for, being very off the cuff and spontaneous. So I want to keep that degree, but having a scheduled hour show that I want to have certain things that to cover. That's why I'm calling the videos at the pub. They're not going to be beer reviews. They're not going to be whiskey reviews. They're not going to be wine reviews, but we may talk about any of those things, whatever we might have. For instance, I'm starting to learn about wine. So I've got a couple friends I want to see if I can talk into, or at least one of them into being a guest to really talk more about wine as, where I can talk about how I'm discovering the wine, the notes I'm getting and how I'm approaching it, how as compared to how a wine expert will approach the same product. That's something I would like to discuss. So again, if I have a friend that is more on the sports side, more sports oriented, we can talk along those lines. Although I will admit, I don't follow sports as closely as I once did. And if we're talking sports, in all honesty, for me, I'm more of a baseball guy than anything else. I don't even follow football much anymore. I mean, I've always been a Rams fan, but how I don't watch the Sunday games. You know, I just don't pay that much attention to it anymore. I don't have that chip like some of these guys do that have to be glued to the set every Sunday. I've never thought it was all that important. I mean, I like sports, I enjoy them, but I don't need to watch every damn game every Sunday. That just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a 92 proof whiskey, right? And it is just incredibly approachable. As complex as it is very approachable, very easy to drink. As you see, I'm drinking it neat, making absolutely no face. It is rather sweet for a rye, and the only thing I can attribute to that is probably the sherry cask finishing has added a lot of that sweetness, I'm guessing. Because you can pick up a lot of dark fruit notes that wouldn't typically be in a rye whiskey. So I can only guess that it came from those sherry casks. So, but as far as New Year's Eve goes, that's all the wife and I have planned. We got a few snacks. I always end up buying more than I know we're going to go for or be able to eat because, well, you never know what you're going to be in the mood for at that time, right? I always have certain things planned, but it kind of depends on when we get started. We got started a little bit late today, so I fixed those other things so I can get them done quick. And we've got some meats and cheeses we can always go to, make a quick impromptu charcuterie board. Right now, my wife is pulling out of the oven. At the Amish store, we picked up these little pastries. They called them croissants, but they weren't really shaped like a croissant. But there was strawberry cream cheese, I believe. So, but yeah, so because it's just wife and I, so we just pulled out two. That way, we can just cook two. Our granddaughter was selling some cookie dough. Uh, so at some point, hey, we make a couple cookies because we can, because of how they're set up, we can cook just 2 or 4 cookies at a time. You don't have to cook a whole tray. So which is what we like to do. That way we don't have we're not compelled to eat more, right? If we just cook two, we'll only eat one a piece. If we just cook 4, we'll only eat 2 a piece. If we cook 12, we're going to eat 6 a piece. That's just how things work. Now, that's the science behind it. I mean, that's if you cook 12, you're going to eat 12. So I have other things. So we'll see. Like I said, we have the coconut shrimp. I'm just gonna bake, but I have some. We've got some crab legs we can. Or actually, it's mostly claws. I think it was some Dungeness that my wife had picked up. So I'm just gonna steam that because it's. I mean, it's theoretically already cooked. We're just gonna steam it warm again. And if we don't get to it today, it'll be tomorrow's course, right? So I have it tomorrow. So there's no harm, no foul. Like I said, I always end up with more than I intend or even able to cook on one particular evening. But you never know what you're going to be in the mood for. Sometimes things happen and kind of change your plans a little bit, as did today. So anyway, I'm not finishing the video quite yet, but I do want to wrap this portion up and say I am Tom, the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, Pereira's man. So I've always said all around good guy. But the beer samurai gave me promotion the other day and said now I'm an all around great guy. It does seem a little, ego driven to, to say great guy, but all around great guy anyway. But I only say that because the beer samurai said I could. And so now I'm going to finish this up with you. The last glass. I said I get 4 glasses out. I only got 3. I must have been pouring a little heavier than I thought I was. Hey, what the hell? What do you know? Uh, hey, sometimes things happen, man. Yeah, we don't typically. There's only been a couple New Year's Eves that we've gotten out. About a handful of years ago, reconnected with an old friend who kind of moved back to town. Well, actually, not back to town, but about an hour and a half from here. And he was able to come to town. We were hanging out at our daughters for a while, but then we did go out for hit a couple places. But typically, this is what we like to do. We like to stay in. We don't tend to want to mess with crowds. I want to relax. I want to be at home. I mean, I'm the best bartender I know. For me, I might not be your best bartender, but for me, I know how I like my drinks, and I know how I like my beer. And I have it here. I have the beer. I've got the whiskey. I've got the wine. Hey man, so we're here. I've got the food. We've got everything we need. We're rather self sufficient here. So yeah, we aren't going anywhere. We're gonna relax, do our thing. My wife has had a rather tough day, so she hasn't started drinking wine yet. She's got to get herself to a place where she can sit back and enjoy it. But with my wife discovering wine this year, that's been very nice too. Because before I go into the breweries, I'd even hit a few wineries, but I would always be doing them by myself. But now that she's enjoying the wine and doing the tastings, it's kind of fun that we kind of do that together. Our wine tastes are kind of about 180 degrees apart, but it's still nice to do tastings together. We had a great time at Kill Toy. They run a deal where if you buy a case, 12 bottles, they take 10% off. Basically, takes the tax off. But we do like their stuff, and they are more affordable, reasonable, whatever word you want to insert there, than most. Well, that's one thing we do like about Kel Toys. They're very unpretentious, and also the Irish theme. We're my wife and I are both of Irish ancestry, so we're kind of drawn to that Irish theme as well. Originally, we were planning the little outing yesterday. We were going to hit a Kel Toy and Beard Engine, and I started thinking, Jolly. I wasn't sure how far Jolly Fox is in Kansas. So in my mind, I'm thinking that's a ways away. Until I started looking it up on MapQuest, and it was like, it made the trip 15 minutes longer. Okay, instead of an hour and 15 minutes going to Keltoy, it was an hour and a half going to Jolly Fox. About 15, 20 minutes back to Keltoy, and from Keltoy to Beard Engine, about 15, 20 minutes. So it didn't give us it was a little bit, it was about a, 30-minute extra driving time, I guess. But I hated to go that far and not visit Jolly Fox because that was another one. I do have a 6 pack of their beer in the fridge as well. Um, that was another one that was kind of a home run swing for me. Everything about Jolly Fox beer I love, but again, it's the atmosphere. They've got a great atmosphere going on there. Their staff is amazing and friendly. I talked to the owner there a while. I mean, they're just good folks out there, man. I could not if you're ever heading to Pittsburg, Kansas, I do recommend that place highly. And they've got a few other places I like in Pittsburg, Kansas. I want to mention at least one of them real quick, the Meat Shed. I didn't get there because my wife and I recently stocked up on a lot of meat. We bought a lot of meat bundles from somewhere. So our freezers were full. Otherwise, I would have stopped because the Meat Shed, oh man, these guys are awesome. Oh, we stopped there back in May, man. I bought a lot of stuff to take home. We were staying at a Airbnb, but I had a fridge. So I bought a lot of stuff and chucked it in the freezer and then just took it home. And man, their stuff is incredible, man. My wife and I tend to like to plan trips that maybe other folks wouldn't go, right? No, I don't. When we run into folks from Pittsburgh, why would you come here on purpose? Well, because it's different for us. So yeah, we tend to like to go to places that other folks might go. Why are you going there? you know, we're not big crowd people, so I don't really want to go to the trendy hot spots, right? We want to find the spots that maybe people have overlooked for one reason or another. And I got to tell you, we had a great time in Pittsburg, Kansas. We really did. But it wasn't just Pittsburgh. I mean, we visited Galena. We didn't get there this time. I wanted to, but we just didn't, make that same circle. Uh, Galena has this little, can't remember the name of it, it's listed as a pharmacy, but they have a soda fountain in there. So, yeah, yeah. So you get old fashioned soda jerk style sodas in there. That was very, very nice. But yeah, we kind of like to visit places that other folks might have overlooked. So in the future, we got our eyes. We tend to make short trips, right? So I've got most weekends off, so we can do like an hour and a half to 2 hours. The one place we want to get to we haven't yet is Hermann, Missouri. It's a little bit farther off out. It's about 3.5 hours. So we could do it on a weekend, but I want to make sure I've got that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I might even take an extra Monday if we go out there. But the problem is we've got, well, at the time anyway, we had two older cats, and we just didn't want to leave them for that length of time. Or, well, they want to leave for more than 2 days. We've lost Laura, or not, we lost Shadow, so we're down to just Eddie now. But because Eddie's by herself now, we don't even want to leave Eddie for one night. You know, but right now we're at that point. I don't know. Eddie's really been rather clingy since Shadow died. So leaving her even for one night, so we don't want to leave more than two. But now we're down to, can we really leave her for a couple nights? Because we thought about staying the night last night. Now we're just gonna come on home. Eddie's gonna be worried. And she was, because we know Eddie was worried because Eddie's been very clingy today. Eddie's been right on my wife all day long. She does not like it when we're gone all day. She really doesn't. So very codependent cat. I had this theory about cats. I have this theory. You know, we lost our cat Large. Large was mostly my cat, but we lost her at the end of 2018. And the thing about, so Large had this certain person. I mean, Large had big personality, but when Large passed away, Shadow started acting a lot like Large. And now when Shadow passed away, Eddie's acting a lot like Shadow. So I have this theory that when a cat dies, when the cats have been brought up together and have lived together for a period of time, that they adopt those traits of the other cat when they pass away. And I can't prove it. But I will tell you again, when Large died, Shadow became a lot like Large. And now that Shadow has passed, Eddie's gotten a lot like Shadow was. She still acts like Eddie, don't get me wrong, but she's adopted some of Shadow's traits. I can't get over how easy this beer is to drink at 13%. I'm thinking, really? Are you guys lying to me? Is this really a 7.5% beer? I mean, damn, man. Oh, but again, here's the thing: you can taste the imperial stout, you can taste those rye barrel notes, but it never becomes boozy. And usually, at 13%, you can really feel a lot of those notes. And again, you taste the barrel, but it doesn't overpower it. It is balanced so impeccably well. Again, it's just one of the great things that Nate is able to do as a brewer. I mean, I mean, you know, some people just have a knack. And a lot, you know, I don't want to make light of the fact that he's got a lot of talent. He's also very intelligent and well versed. He knows how to brew, but you know, you can have all the, you know, the book knowledge, and if you don't have a knack, you're still not going to quite get it right. And Nate is rather amazing. So as I'm getting used to the StreamYard, I did want to kind of do one long video today, just because, you know, want to do that one long one, kind of get a feel for it. I may come back on again. I don't know if I'll do just, you know, just a Facebook Live like I've done in the past. I kind of like doing. I'm getting to where I like the StreamYard because, you know, it's going out to the others, right? It's going out to the other social medias with one video. So I don't have to do 3 videos anymore. I just do one. And I guess they don't all have to be long. But I do want to start doing it an official, more of a podcast like video where I can do an audio and a video. But again, you know, doing maybe just slightly more structured than what I typically do. Where, and I say slightly, I mean I will probably have the beer, whiskey, wine, whatever, planned ahead of time in conjunction with whatever guests. And we won't script anything, but maybe have an idea of the topics we want to bring up. But other than that, I do want it to be, you know, I want it to remain kind of off the cuff, like I like to do things. I like things to be rather spontaneous. I don't want it to be scripted. It's not going to be like reality TV shows where they make you think it's spontaneous when it's all scripted. They're doing 4, 5, 6 takes. I'm not going to do that, but it may be slightly more formatted than what I typically do, let's just say. I want to take a minute and say Happy New Year's Eve to friends and family out there that have stuck by me all these years through all my foibles and through the dark times, if you will. So yeah, I mean, at some point I'd like to get into that topic, but I want to, yeah, I'll probably wait till around, April 23rd is when we lost Seamus. So about when, you know, whatever date is closest to that, when I do a video, I want to find somebody who also has dealt with a loss, so we can talk about grief a little bit. And I think a lot of it just, I don't know. There's certain things that really frustrate me. When folks say things like, "I know how you feel," it just bugs the shit out of me. Or things get easier with time. I just that kind of thing just really irritates me because it doesn't. It doesn't get better with time. You might find a way to deal with it, but it doesn't get easier and it doesn't get better. You just find a way to keep going forward, or you don't. And those are really your options. So we'll take a little break. I'm going to have a little snack, and then I will probably pop on later. I don't know if I'm going to continue using the StreamYard the rest of the evening, although I may just, again, to just keep getting a better feel for it, because I feel like now this is the second time I popped it on. So I figured out something this time that I couldn't figure out last time. So I figure if I keep screwing with it, I'm going to keep figuring stuff out. So anyway, anyway, I digress. I am a tad short of an hour, but I think we're going to wrap this one up anyway. I'm Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, purveyor wisdom, and I'm also Tom the Beer Whisperer, Beer Evangelist, prolific drinker, purveyor wisdom, and damn, Nate, I don't even know what to say. This beer is beyond outstanding. I can't believe this sucker's 13% because you don't feel it at all. Oh my lord. Beer Whisper, all around good guy. Cheers. Have a good one. I'll hit the end broadcast. So I'm still trying to figure this shit out, man. It's a little bit different, but I'll get there.